Once upon a time, there was this man who was a boy named Peter Pan, and he goes to Neverland where he never ever has to grow up. And he has wonderful adventures with the pirates and the Indians and people and even mermaids and maybe even animals and little teddy bears, or maybe that's Star Wars. But anyways, you hear all these wonderful stories of Peter Pan, who's just like Superman, but in another dimension, another world, another planet, and you think, man, this is really good, but then he falls in love with Wendy, of course he does, and then he goes off and he's in the real world, a place that he never thought he would live because he never wanted to grow up and be like his father, be like a lawyer or something, be really depressing and die eventually, or something worse than that, like doing your taxes. But that's what happens, and he went there. And it was really sad because his old friend, Captain James Hook, is still in Neverland and is still pretty, angry, or, he misses Peter Pan. So this is my movie review on the movie Hook, which was made by Steven Spielberg. I thought he was made of steel, so I call him Spielberg, but he's really Spielberg. So I thought you should know that, you know, if you haven't seen this movie, here are some spoiler alerts if I haven't already given you all of them already. But this movie's been around for the last 20 years, so you probably have seen it already, but if you haven't, then shame on you, but that's okay. I'm not here to get angry at you, but sometimes I do. I mean, look at my beard. A person with a beard is a person who's always angry. At least that's what they say. And that's probably why Captain Hook is always angry. And he goes to the real world somehow. Maybe he steals fairy dust from Tinkerbell, and he flies his boat, his ship, all the way to the real world. Kind of like what you see in one of the cartoon movies, where the boat is flying through the air. It might be kind of like that. I'm not exactly sure, but at the beginning of the movie, you see grown-up Peter Pan, played by Robin Williams, and he is a lawyer. The very person that he sworn he never would be, he becomes. And it's kind of typical for humans. That's what humans do. If you look into sociology and psychology and things like that, really boring things which I've studied a little, people become what they think they would not become, but they do. And it's really sad when that happens, but it happens, and it's like, oh man, I became like my mother. You know, a sister may say that, a daughter may say that, a young woman may say that, and then the son may say, oh man, I have became my father. Oh no, in the way that I discipline my kids. Oh man. And that's how Peter Pan was. Peter Pan was a busy man, too busy for his own kids, because he was a lawyer, man. He was a freaking lawyer, man. It's too bad. I don't know, but it's too bad. It's so sad to see your life falling apart, where you're like, man, I'm Peter Pan, you know, and to die would be an awfully horrible adventure, awful adventure. I mean, I just want to live and and be Peter Pan. I mean, that's what Michael Jackson always said, I think, when he was still alive. Ironically, it's like you say something, did you die? It's like, oh man, I'm gonna be I'm gonna be Peter Pan, and then you die, or something like that. But maybe not. I'm trying to be a little more dramatic, and it's not always gonna work that way. But for Peter Pan, it should work that way because he's Peter Pan and he can do what he wants because he's Peter Pan. He used to be the life of the party, but he goes back to the real world and becomes a lawyer, which is not the life of the party. It's the complete opposite, which is kind of sad, but it's the life he took and the life he chose, and it should be fine. And then he goes to a recital, a play of his kids. His kids are in a play, and he's watching it, and it's nice, and maybe they messed up a few lines because they're kids and they make mistakes. That's what they do. And then he's supposed to go see a baseball game of his son, but then he's kind of late because he's a lawyer and he has things to do, people to see, things to do. So he's late and his son is mad, and then they hop in an airplane and they go to see their old, like, grandmother's house, Wendy, because he doesn't fall in love with Wendy. Peter Pan likes Wendy, but he's still Peter Pan. He was still in Neverland, but then what was it? Wendy's kid, daughter or granddaughter, fell in love with Peter Pan, and Peter Pan fell in love with the daughter, and they're the ones that got married and had kids, and it's kind of like that, but they go back to see Wendy, and not, they're from America, but they live in America, I guess. Now they live in America, but they go back to Europe, like England, UK, to go see grandmother Wendy, and then they're there, but then Captain Hook comes and steals the kids, and then Peter Pan finds out. Doesn't really find out, but kinda does, because Tinkerbell tells him, but he doesn't really believe in Tinkerbell, because who would? Why would a grown man believe in Tinkerbell? But Tinkerbell has to knock him out silly and put him in a napkin or a blanket, drag him all the way to Neverland, and then they're in Neverland, and they see a baseball game. Captain Hook has a baseball game for Peter Pan's son, so that Peter Pan's son feels like, oh, my father does not care about me, but this guy with a hook does, and that's good. Maybe I want to stay here forever, and that's what Captain Hook is doing. Captain James Hook of the Jolly Rabbits, the Jolly Seas, is turning his own Peter Pan's kids against him, and that's like the worst nightmare. And then he throws Peter Pan overboard when he gets there, because Peter Pan doesn't really remember who he is, and it's really sad. And then Peter Pan's in the bottom, but then the bottom of the ocean, but then the mermaids come, and the mermaids are like, hey, we'll save you and we'll kiss you until you get better and get back to the land. And then he's there, and he doesn't know who he is, but then the Lost Boys start squeezing his face, and they try to make him remember, and eventually he does, and then he tries to fly, and Tinkerbell has to try to help him fly, and then he tries to go back to the boat to try to save his kids, and he can't right away, but then he tries to go through this rocky moment to get back in shape, and da dun dun, da dun dun, da dun dun, but he's Peter Pan, so he doesn't really have to like run up a big building, and but he does a little bit just to try to remember who he is, and that's kind of good for him to get back onto memory lane and to try to remember who he is, and to get back with that, to get back on track, and things seem to get better, and it's good. It's all good in the hood, I think. And so what happens after that, you know? I don't remember. When's the last time I've seen this film? It's really old, but it's really magical. I know it's magical because eventually they get into a fight near the end. You know, Captain Hook, he gives him an opportunity. He said, okay, in 3 days we'll have a war. We'll have a fight. And I'll win and you will lose and your kids will be mine forever, and that would be a great thing, you know. And Peter Pan's like, no way, I'm Peter Pan, and I will win, and I will, you know, get my kids back, and that's what he does, and he starts to fly again, and he starts to fight again, and one night they're eating dinner, and he starts to believe in the make-believe food, and he starts to eat it, and it tastes good, and he's like, oh man, I'm Peter Pan, you know, I can fight, I can fly, and I can crow, and they get back into the fight, and there's a fight at the end, and you can hear the music, dun 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 dun. I don't know, I can't remember exactly how the music goes, but they're fighting, but then Captain Hook is fighting Rufio, and stabs him. Captain Hook stabs Rufio in the heart. Did I say spoiler alert? And I did, and if I didn't, I'll say it again. Spoiler alert, he stabs him in the heart, or, you know, in that area, in the body area. And so Rufio is, like, injured, and he looks to Peter Pan, and he says, oh, you're like a father to me. You know, like, Luke, I am your father. Or, like, oh my goodness, you're my father, kind of thing. And, and Peter Pan's like, oh my. And, you know, Peter Pan is really sad. And now he's disturbed, and he's like, okay, Captain Hook, because you've had the last of this, you know, being a tough little man, trying to, you know, being a bully, you know, stop being a bully, man, stop being a bully. And they start fighting, boom, 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 and then it looks like Captain Hook is gonna win, and Peter Pan's to the ground, but then everybody's like, I believe in you, I believe in you, I believe in you, I believe in you. And it's one thing to say, you know, fairies don't exist because the one falls down dead when you say that a fairy does not exist, and so never do that. Never say that a fairy does not exist, and then, you know, because Tinkerbell fall over dead like they did in the original movie back more than 50 or 60 years ago. That's what happens if you say, there's no such thing as a fairy. But it's even worse when you say, there's no such thing as Santa Claus, or Peter Pan. Peter Pan, not Santa Claus. Forget about Santa Claus. So it's better to say, you know, I believe in you, Peter Pan. This little what do you call it, self-believism, or whatever you want to call it, works for Peter Pan. Does it work in real life? I'm not exactly sure, but I know that it works for them. And Peter Pan rises to the occasion, and he hits Captain Hook with his sword, and then he does something. He hits the big crocodile statue in the back, and the crocodile statue falls onto Captain Hook, and I think it's a real crocodile in the story, at least. And then the crocodile burps, and everybody is happy, but then they're sad to see Peter Pan go. Peter Pan goes back to the real world, and goes back to being a parent, and a better parent, a happier parent who will be there for his kids more, like any father should. And if I ever became a father, that's what I would want to be like Peter Pan, but not a irresponsible Peter Pan, but a responsible Peter Pan who's there for his kids and for his wife and his family and his friends and his lawyer friends too, you know. And like the other guy, I'd have to give this movie an awesome tacular review. Oh man. But then maybe I should come up with my own idea, which would be I give this an oatmeal tacular review. Because I'm an oatmeal person. The original oatmeal. I'm the original oatmeal. Just like Peter Pan is the original Peter Pan. So what do you think about this movie? What do you think about this review? Just tell me below. Write a comment. I really want to see a comment. Or you can email me originaloatmeal@gmail.com. Originaloatmeal@gmail.com. You know, leave a comment, like it, and subscribe to me. You know, that's what they say, and that's what I say. And maybe I'll make some more reviews. Maybe I'll make some better reviews. This is my first actual review of a movie, and I really like this movie because I really like Peter Pan. I really like flying. I really like action. I just like the mentality of Peter Pan. The character of him is not about him being a kid in a bad way. I'm against being a kid forever in a bad way where you're not responsible for the world. I'm more for being a kid in a good way where you're still thinking like you're open and willing to see what the world has, you know, to offer. That you're willing to listen to people and not to judge people too quickly. That's what being a kid in a good way is all about. Being open, having your eyes open, your mind open to new ideas, and trying new things, you know, like Peter Pan, and not giving up when the going gets tough. And that's what you should do. What do you think? Is growing up really bad? Is growing up really good? Tell me, and we could talk about this more later.